From quickly debunking rumors of a matchup to dissing Khamzat's climb up the UFC rankings, this is why Robert Whittaker is afraid to fight Khamzat Chimaev. The UFC, unlike any other fighting sport, has seen its fair share of intense rivalries and feuds, and the back and forth between Robert Whittaker and Khamzat Chimaev has been one to watch in recent years. Both men have become top stars in the UFC after their initial fights, but they have yet to meet in the octagon to duke it out. Robert Whittaker is an Australian mixed martial artist who currently competes in the middleweight division of the UFC. He's also a former UFC middleweight champion and is #1 in the official UFC middleweight rankings. Nicknamed The Reaper, he holds notable victories over seasoned fighters like Derek Brunson, Ronaldo Jacare Souza, Yoel Romero, and Darren Till. Whittaker is known for his technical stand-up striking and counterpunching ability, as well as his excellent ground game. He's shown a great deal of improvement over the years in both areas and continues to be a formidable competitor. With an impressive record of 24 wins and 6 losses, Robert Whittaker is an awe-inspiring force and one of the best middleweight fighters in UFC history. Over his years in the octagon, fight fans have screamed out for Whittaker to face Chimaev in the cage at the UFC. Chimaev is a Swedish-born Chechen fighter who made his debut in July 2020. He quickly rose to fame with 2 lightning-quick wins. He's currently undefeated at 12-0, having taken just 1 minute and 5 seconds combined against John Phillips and Rhys McKee. Chimaev is an incredible athlete who has managed to rise to the top of the UFC rankings faster than any other fighter in history. His aggressive style, fast-paced attacks, and relentless grappling have been a nightmare for his opponents, making him one of the most talked-about names in the sport. But will a matchup with Whittaker and Chimaev ever happen? While speculation has arisen that the two will meet in the octagon, Whittaker has been quick to debunk the rumors. When speaking with the MMA Hour, Whittaker set the record straight regarding claims that he was offered a fight with the rising superstar Chimaev. Whittaker bluntly said, "Someone said that Chimaev said that they offered me a fight and that I turned it down. I was never offered a fight with Chimaev, and that's that." After the UFC had announced that Robert Whittaker was slated to face Paulo Costa at UFC 284 in February 2023, fight fans were gutted that the bout never ended up happening. After this, the middleweight title fight between Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya at UFC 287 was supposed to serve as a potential setup for Whittaker's next fight. Adesanya rose victorious and defeated Pereira by TKO in the second round, crowning him the middleweight champion. While many fight fans and critics now believe this puts Whittaker in the running for another shot at the title, others believe that Chimaev has earned his chance and is more deserving of the opportunity. With a record like his, we can see why people would think this. Chimaev hasn't challenged his impressive 12-0 record since his fight at UFC 279 in September 2022, and many fight fans are wondering, what's the holdup? Since bursting onto the UFC scene in 2020, Chimaev has proven his ability to compete at both welterweight and middleweight. However, his last fight caused some major controversy and questioned the ability of the fighter. After badly missing weight for his clash with Nate Diaz, the Borge went toe-to-toe with Kevin Holland in a catchweight fight. Despite the upset, Chimaev went on to deliver an exciting bout, defeating Holland with a first-round submission win. But Chimaev's inability to make weight has left fans wondering what weight class he'll fight in when he returns to the cage. The UFC have expressed hesitancy to trust Chimaev to maintain the welterweight benchmark, especially in a potential title fight. This has led many commentators to speculate that Chimaev will make the move up to middleweight. Chimaev himself has dropped hints regarding both divisions, so it's been difficult to predict with certainty which division he'll compete in. And if he's going for the middleweight title, the chances are that he may have to duke it out with Robert Whittaker first. A bout between these two could be the perfect decider to who is next in line for the title shot. But it appears Whittaker is not interested and is not keen on welcoming Chimaev into the middleweight division. In fact, Whittaker really doesn't seem to be considering Chimaev as a potential opponent for his anticipated return whatsoever. After winning at UFC Paris in September 2022, it looks like Whittaker wants to skip his potential fight with Chimaev altogether, and instead has his sights set on jumping right back into a rematch with Israel Adesanya. And of course, he wants that UFC middleweight belt back. But UFC president Dana White has had nothing to say on Whittaker versus Adesanya as of yet. On March 17, 2023, Dana White met up with members of the media before UFC 286. White was asked about Chimaev's next fight, but couldn't give a date on when it might happen. But he did confirm that it would be contested at the 185-pound middleweight division. He also said that the fight will see Chimaev come up against one of the top 3 middleweights in the UFC, and, lo and behold, Robert Whittaker is one of them. So, now that the UFC president has confirmed that the bout is likely to happen, why is Whittaker dodging it so much? Perhaps he's intimidated by Chimaev's unbeaten record. Perhaps he's not fully confident that he'll win, making that desired title shot virtually impossible. Whittaker has solely put his dodging down to the fact that he simply has not been offered to fight Chimaev, saying, "I have not received any sort of written contract that says, 'Do you want to fight Chimaev in X, Y, or Z?' That's not something that has been presented to me." He also feels that Chimaev simply hasn't worked his way up enough yet. When sitting down with MMA Hour on April 17, 2023, Whittaker said that the rankings are there for a reason, and he doesn't like guys who just slide in and fight wherever they want. He also bluntly added that Chimaev isn't in the division rankings. Whittaker is not dismissing Chimaev altogether, though, so he says. Whittaker also made the move from welterweight to middleweight years back, so he has some experience here. He simply just doesn't think it's fair for a fighter to change weight classes and be offered such a big fight right away. But what would actually happen if Dana White decides Whittaker and Chimaev should meet in the octagon? Well, former middleweight champion and UFC legend Chael Sonnen stressed on his podcast that this would not be a fight he would want to see. But professional opinions aside, fight fans all over are curious to see what might happen. If Whittaker and Chimaev were to fight each other in the UFC middleweight division, it would absolutely be a clash of 2 very different styles, and that would make for an exciting matchup. Whittaker is an experienced veteran who has become one of the most decorated champions in the division's history. He's known for his technical striking and powerful takedown defense. Chimaev, on the other hand, is much younger and quicker. He's known for his aggressive grappling style that wears out opponents quickly. This matchup would be a hard one to peg, and as we all now know, it would be a bout that could potentially have huge implications on the middleweight title picture. If Whittaker can weather the early storm of Chimaev's relentless grappling, he may have the experience and technique to take home the victory. However, if Chimaev is able to keep up his relentless pressure and capitalize on any mistakes that Whittaker makes, he could be in for one of the biggest moments in UFC history. But for now, all fight fans can do is keep wondering if the fight will ever see the light of day. And if they don't meet soon, Whittaker surely can't dodge this rising superstar forever. So, from quickly debunking rumors of a matchup to dissing Khamzat's climb up the UFC rankings, this was why Robert Whittaker is afraid to fight Khamzat Chimaev.